Hey everyone, so welcome back to my channel today, and we are doing a brand new Sims 4 criticism video because today I thought it'd be really fun to kind of go back to my roots of making Sims, but with a storyline attached to it. Because if you're brand new to my channel, you probably don't know that I do a lot of storytelling here on YouTube, through Create a Sim, through building, and through gameplay. Now, I haven't done gameplay in quite some time on this channel because I've been kind of feeling uninspired, but now I feel a little bit more inspired to kind of get back into that and get back to my roots of what I used to do on a daily basis and have fun. And so usually what I do is always go into Create a Sim, make Sims, whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 8, and give them all different backstories that relate to them. And today I want to actually kind of have a little fun with occults and play with werewolves and play with vampires. And recently we got the werewolf game pack, but we also had the announcement of the high school years expansion pack. And now with those two combined, I kind of got inspired through the movie franchise Twilight, but also, the Vampire Diaries, the originals, Legacies, Underworld, Van Helsing, all those like supernatural werewolf vampire like movies and TV shows that I love watching. Now for me, I don't really play with occults that much, but I also don't play with teenagers or make male Sims at all. So those three combined are kind of out of my comfort zone, but it's really fun to experiment to see what I can possibly do. And so I made these two teenager Sims named Henry Whitmore and a Sim that you'll see later named Cecile Forman. Now Henry is a werewolf and Cecile is a vampire. Now with Henry Whitmore, the last name Whitmore kind of dates back to the 1800s of who his lineage, who his great ancestors were. He doesn't really know them that much, but what I find so interesting about Henry that I discovered is that he was actually born in Moonwood Mill, but his parents kind of took him away from that life because of the Moonwood Collective and the Wild Fangs, werewolf groups happening in Moonwood Mill. And so they kind of took him away and they moved over to a brand new world, a brand new town called Willow Creek, but in the secret world called the Silver Glades. Now, if you don't know, in the background of that world, it's a very fairy, pink, magical world. But what I found so interesting is that there are actually creepy, weird looking eyes in the background that kind of shine like there's a werewolves or some type of creature in the beyond of the forest of the Silver Glades. And I thought, wait, what if Henry and his parents lived there and they just kind of hid there for a very long time until just recently to come out of hiding? So it kind of makes perfect sense that Henry is now fully grown as a teenager. He's about 16 years old, kind of navigating life in a different direction because around him when he was 8 years old, he kind of lost his parents through a very weird freak accident in the Silver Glades of these people coming in and out, random Sims, discovering where they live and kind of hunting them for random weird reasons. Now, Henry wasn't in the situation at all, but his parents were, and he kind of lost track and lost sight of his family. And so what happened is that around he was 9 years old, these group of random Sims, like I said, were kind of seeing him as a nice, simple child that got lost and couldn't find his parents. At the time, they didn't know he was a werewolf. They did not know because as children, they don't really have the whole werewolf gene until they get a little bit older. But the thing about Henry, he actually had a very dormant werewolf gene. And so all of his werewolf, genes and powers didn't really activate until he kind of went back to Moonwood Mill to go to the orphanage where he kind of stayed for a couple of years, swam in the ocean during the full moon, and his powers basically activated. Now around this time, it was still when he was 9 years old when he met his brother, Cecil Forman. Now, like I said, these two Sims were both not secretly, well, I guess secretly because the government didn't werewolves and vampires in the same house. But basically, they were quote unquote secretly in the same orphaned house for a very long time up until, Henry activated his werewolf powers at the age of 14. And Cecile kind of activated his whole vampire gene until he was 15. And so Cecile and Henry are 1 year apart, but what I find so unique about them is that they get along very, very well. And you would think that werewolves and vampires don't really get along very well, but these two Sims do. They grew up together. They went through trials and tribulations together for so many years that they kind of bonded together, and they wanted to be able to kind of be there for each other no matter what would happen, through thick and thin, the ride or die, and do whatever means possible to kind of keep them grounded. And since they are both occults, that they have a very bad reputation in society of like, ooh, werewolves are weird and scary and evil, and so are vampires. I don't like them. They don't get along. But what I find so helpful is that Cecile and Henry both are equally kind of the same person. And so when the orphanage found out that they were supernatural, they did not like that, and they could not keep them in the same home. And so what had happened is that basically Henry and Cecile got emancipated. So they had to go ahead and actually leave the orphanage to go over to a secret location in Moonwood Mill that they had to stay in a very secret tiny lot. And so they actually live underground, which is a very interesting place to be for a werewolf and a vampire living together. But the fact that they can get along, it's pretty feasible. And so for the past, like, at least since Henry was like 14 when his powers activated, and Cecile was 15, and now they're basically like 16, 17, they've been living by themselves for a very long time, for a couple of years. Now, they don't have a job. They don't really have any kind of social life technically, besides like their own and like the friends that they like know. But the other thing too about with these two Sims and living in Moonwood Mill again after so long is that Henry was actually born into the whole wolf, like Wild Fang, Moonwood Collective, like lineage for so many years, but didn't really know. And so with Henry, he's trying to make the best of it and trying to make sure that he is who he wants to be. He doesn't want to be pressured into joining some type of like weird Moonwood Collective or the Wild Fangs, because his family has history in Moonwood Mill. And they know about him, they know about who he is, where he comes from, how he, where he went, why he came back, and all that stuff. And with Rory and Christopher, with Christopher being in the Moonwood Collective and Rory being in the Wild Fangs, they're kind of pressuring him to be someone that he's not. And with Cecile and Henry, I find that they just want to be their own people. They want to be their own person. And with the whole high school year expansion pack coming up very soon, I want to be able to kind of navigate their lives through thick and thin and seeing what they can possibly do to make the best of it. Now, these two Sims actually have the highest of the high. Well, technically, Cecile does. Cecile has been around for a very long time, since like, the 1900s. So he's been along. He's like old, ancient. He's like 200 and some odd years old at this point. And so he's pretty old and ancient, but he got turned when he was like basically in a sense like 15, but young child, 9, 8, growing up, but 15 is when basically he got bit, became a vampire, all that jazz. And his mentor, Vladimir Stride III, or I guess the 5th, I can't remember. Either way, Vladdy Daddy, all the people that know him. He was basically Cecile's mentor. He trained them, he clothed them, he fed them, and kind of when Vladimir Stride kind of died unexpectedly from a very freak sun fire accident, and his mansion kind of being burned down to the ground, it kind of made him lost. It kind of made him forget who he was until he found Henry, and until he kind of got into that same orphanage and that same like collective friendship. And so with the high school years expansion pack coming around, I want to definitely have Cecile and Henry navigate high school as freshly new teenagers without being exposed or without being, hated in this family. So they're going to have to navigate through the high school years expansion pack and kind of grow their lineage from the ground up. It's more of like a coming of age story. And I want to be able to have them navigate high school, university, but also young adulthood after graduating. So it's not going to be a whole like one series thing. It's going to be a full-blown thing of a coming of age story. Find out who they like, who they don't like, their pronouns, their sexuality, how they do things on a daily basis, weird, awkward phases of puberty, prom, graduation, valedictorian, all that stuff. And I want to be able to explore pretty much every nook and cranny of their lives. And hopefully you all definitely enjoy this series, because I want to be able to show that I can commit to something, but I also want to show that I have a true passion of storytelling, and I want to be able to bring it to life in every possible way. And it's going to be a very chill Let's Play, but it's also going to be very fun with a lot of ups and downs, where you're going to be able to see different Sims from Cecile's life, but also different Sims from Henry's life that could either help or not help the story. It could change in a different direction that could possibly be hurtful for Henry or hurtful for Cecile, that they could be, taken apart from each other. And so we're going to be starting in Moonwood Mill with their whole house and everything, and you'll definitely see that house built very, very soon at some point when the high school years expansion pack comes out and I have the pack in my hands, so I can use some of the little cool items from that pack, of course. But in all, I definitely have to say I'm looking forward to the high school years pack, and I'm excited to kind of tie in the werewolf pack and the vampire pack and have a little fun with it and just chill out and go with the flow. But either way, I do hope you all enjoyed today's video as much as I did. Let me know down in the comments below, as always, of what you thought of Henry and Cecile's little backstory that I have going on here. It's kind of like the gist of like everything I've already talked about. It's their full-blown black backstory of where they came from, who they are, who they're going to be, and how I'm going to play with them. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts and opinions, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!